Robots. Usually magnificent mechanized beings of destruction and friendliness, but in the world of Overwatch, they've rained hell upon the people of Earth. The Omnium mass-produced several different models of Omnic during the bloody conflict, but none were more iconic than these two stylish forces of death. But between the Bastion and Orisa, who would come out on top in a showdown? During the heated war between the humans and Omnics, the Indiana OR-14 line of security bots were mass-produced in Nigeria after the conclusion of the war. After the conclusion of the war, production of this line ceased until 20 years later during a more stable and peaceful time, in which the OR-14s were recommissioned to protect the cities of the country. Doomfist, for unknown reasons, launched an offensive that caused these new OR-15s to be shut down. One young girl, Ife Oladeli, saw the potential in these new machines, and so, with her genius grant, she gathered parts from the OR-15 model and rebuilt a robot of her own. Among the upgrades she made to these new defenders was a custom-built personality core designed by Ife herself. Dubbing her new creation Orisa, the two set out to right the wrongs of their environment, as the two learned much more about themselves and the world, fueled by innocent optimism and Orisa's own sense of pride and duty, protecting both Nimbani and Ife no matter the cost. Orisa's model of Omnic was intended to be a security bot, and Orisa herself is only a month or so old, so her chassis likely hasn't seen all that much combat, and the accompanying wear and tear that it brings, which is a plus for her durability and movement. When we go to the Nimbani map and spy the lodged OR-15s trapped inside of the wall prism, we can't really see much of their physical ruptures or armor breaches. Considering the fact that Doomfist supposedly leveled skyscrapers, it's safe to say that Orisa's armor is fairly damage resistant, even if the pure shock of Doomfist's attacks may have destroyed the OR-15's internals. To battle, Orisa packs her own cozy fusion driver, a fully automatic projectile cannon that slightly impairs her movement whilst in use. Getting hit by this puppy for little under 2 seconds is enough to put down anything from a cowboy to a savvy sniper. Whilst the weapon does suffer from a 2.5 second reloading time and a weapon spread that only gets worth of distance, it's not a weapon to be ignored. The driver can also launch a green orb that, upon detonation, manually or otherwise, will drag a target towards the center of the orb itself, and can even remove a bastion from its sentry mode. With Fortify, Orisa brands herself in a nice coat of gold, which prevents her from being moved around and turns 50% of the damage that she would take into, well, nothingness. Protective Barrier erects a shield that can protect our OR-15, but heavy fire will eat through it as if it were jelly. Lastly, we have her trump card, the Supercharger. This small canister directly increases the damage output of Orisa's fusion driver, and so it's pretty useful. For all of that grand tankiness though, Orisa is barely more mobile than a packet of peanuts. As displayed by her OR-15 predecessors, if overwhelmed by sheer force alone or numbers, she will mostly have little option of escape and will therefore have to hold the line. Her main weapon is fairly unreliable, and as distances increase, there isn't much you can say about it. Most of her assets further impair her already weak maneuverability, and so if Bastion displays a great offensive, things won't be looking good for Nimbani's defender. But being a powerful defense is one of Orisa's greatest attributes. With swift access to a lethal assault cannon configuration, Bastion units were once created with the intention of upholding and preserving peace. The Omnic Crisis saw them used against humanity, and due to their significant role in the Omnic armies, many were disassembled. To many, they embodied the nightmares of the Crisis. Greatly damaged near the end of the war, one lost Bastion unit shut down, unknown to the people of the world, eventually being awakened, and, with the aid of Ganymede, his winged companion, this Bastion unit set out to explore the world. With an intrigue in his surroundings, it didn't take this unit long to become aware of his programming. The threat that he represents has not truly been quenched, nevertheless his existence represents a chance for change. Currently in the world of Overwatch, this Bastion unit appears to be traveling with Torbjorn, an ex-Overwatch engineer. At 30 years old, battle-tested Bastion is more solid than you might think. His robot frame kept him functional whilst he travelled through what must have been a large body of water. He fights using 3 different battle modes or configurations, which grant him access to different weaponry. In Recon mode, Bastion comes prepped with a single submachine gun. It doesn't have the most ammo in the world, but does pack its own personal punch, and allows Bastion a greater level of mobility than in his other forms. Next off, we have Sentry mode, transforming our friendly Omnic into a deadly mounted machine gun. It's capable of dropping almost anything in less than 2 seconds, and at close ranges, less than that. Of course, as the distance increases, the damage becomes a bit more forgettable. It is stocked with plenty of ammo, however, and its turning speed is fairly scary though. Bastion is incapable of moving during this mode, and he does gain increased damage resistance. If his enemy wants to chill from a distance, it's time to pull out the big gun. Then Bastion can transform into a mobile tank, which gives him greater durability and access to a terrifying explosive round. Needless to say, this sound usually means death. If Bastion's chassis is starting to cave under the heat of battle, he can activate a repair function that more often than not keeps him functional. Bastion is one of the loudest forces in Overwatch, and usually his enemies will be able to react to whatever he's about to do next. His mobility isn't the best, and if he's somehow caught, it could spell his demise. Not to mention, his head and small node, and the back of his sentry, aren't exactly the hardest things in the world to target, but he's not a tank. Despite this though, he's still a very terrifying force on the battlefield, and if left unchecked, he could destroy entire enemy teams single-handedly. Investigating some reports of a sighted Bastion running amok near the Numbani city square, Orisa arrives at the scene, surveying the area. As she spies her target, she readies her weapons. Before the unit could make a move, Orisa opened fire with a surge of bullets. The Bastion returned fire with his SMG, but his offensive was thwarted by an energy barrier. With dented armor, the Bastion hobbled toward a destroyed car, beginning to repair itself with its repair functions. Orisa charged forward, flipping over the car to be faced only with the sentry turret mounted before her. A storm of shots pounded into her chest as she aimed her fusion driver upwards, shooting a green orb, pulling the Bastion towards the sky and grabbing hold of his robotic arm. Now trapped, Bastion frantically pummeled his captor's arm to no avail. Charging up her weapon, the OR-15 returned her own hail of bolts, prompting Bastion to resume his repair functions. Orisa then slammed Bastion against the ground and tugged at the healing device, which broke under the monumental stress of the OR-15's might. Left with no other option, Bastion raised his head and began a final transformation. Orisa, now clad in a golden overcoat, tanked Bastion's offensive at first, but the near-endless barrage eventually took a toll. With one small spark of defiance, the unit let out her last word. The explanation for this victory is actually pretty short. Orisa had more tools at her disposal than Bastion, sure, and she could put up quite the powerful defense. However, she could not match Bastion's sheer firepower. Even with her own supercharger, Bastion could still be more destructive with his tank configuration, and whilst both sides were lacking in mobility, this was slightly more painful for Orisa than it was for Bastion because of Bastion's great damage output. Therefore, I declare Bastion the winner of this showdown. The next showdown should include our favorite cowboy and edgelord, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed, go ahead and leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe as always. If you have a suggestion for 2 characters you'd like to see battle this out in the next one, go ahead and leave a suggestion in the comment section below. But until the next one, thank you for watching. I've been Prime, and until then, have a very good day, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.